I'm here to talk about Learning for Self-Government, a K-12 civics report card. This is a report that I've written for jointly Pioneer and the National Association of Scholars, whom I work for. And it has 3 points, the third of which is what I'm going to focus on for this talk right now. The first is a critique of the various institutions which are forwarding protest civics, as Ms. Brown, was identifying, which is unfortunately very deeply rooted in a variety of putatively civics-oriented organizations. So I won't focus on it here, but the 1619 Project curriculum, Educating for American Democracy, Generation Citizen, more weakly, but still, unfortunately, iCivics. All of these are forwarding, action civics, protest civics, vocational training and progressive activism, and calling it civics, and a deeply unfortunate influence on modern civics education. The second part is a sketch of what civics education should be, its principles, the heroes. George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson and William Jennings Bryan, Dwight David Eisenhower and Martin Luther King. I think that's rather fun. And indeed, civics to encourage patriotism without apology. The third thing is what I want to focus on here. And that is, in effect, a survey of a number of civics education institutions to tell what is already being done so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel for providing the full range of civics resources. And in my mind, I sort of thought of it as, how should a philanthropist invest for best return on investment in education? And the way I thought of it, there's a bunch of different civics organizations focusing on different things. These ought to be slotted together because they do complement well. Start with teacher training. You have to train the teachers before you can train the students. 2 institutions that are focusing on teacher training very well. The Ashbrook Center is Teaching American History, an online course structure for a master's in American history. And it's interesting. I take them to be sort of soft-core conservative in their orientation, but what that means is they simply have a wide variety of good education courses, traditional political history, more modern emphases on women's history and social history, simply a good, thorough, bipartisan education that gets all of the good, solid political, constitutional, intellectual history in there as well. Simply to do good old-fashioned bipartisan teacher training and education is something that's essential for making sure that teachers can teach the students properly. Ashbrook does a good model of that, I believe, and it's linked to, and I'll get back to this, a wonderful series of primary sources on the web. The Jack Martin Center is also supporting a variety of teacher training programs around the nation. They rather intelligently try to make sure that each of these programs is linked to state licensure requirements. Some of these state licensure requirements are unfortunate in what they require, but it is still a good thing to have the best possible teacher training consistent with a state teaching licensure requirement. So training teachers is important. Next, providing entire curricula. It's very helpful for teachers to have available an entire curriculum of civics. Now, the gold standard, it's just been published, Hillsdale's 1776 curriculum. This was by far the most rigorous curriculum was surveyed in the report. It is 12th grade civics for intelligent 12th graders, and it absolutely qualifies you for undergraduate civics. Heck, it's probably as good as an introductory undergraduate political science course. I mean, and this is not just high school, they have different sequences for elementary school and middle school as well. deeply rich in primary sources, deeply rich in lesson plans. And the point is, it's in effect a one key, you get everything there. This is the sort of thing that you ought to be investing in, an entire coherent curriculum. And Hillsdale, as I say, does it as well as anybody. And in fact, if you go to their single PDF, you will see. Briefly then, so that a textbook, We the People, actually has a rather good textbook. You want it not just have a curriculum, but a core textbook. You want to link to that textbook lesson plan suites, such as that provided by 1776 Unites on Black American History, linked series of lesson plans. You want to have individual lesson plans for teachers to use as they desire. The Bill of Rights Institutes does well by that. You want to have a wealth of primary sources available for students. The Teaching American History that does that, so does the Gilder Lehrman Center. And then above all, you need to have state standards which make it possible for schools to use all of these things together. I would say Florida's draft civics standards are now gold standard for the nation. So what do you need? You need all of these curricular materials, and you need a supportive state in regulatory environment.